Hello and welcome to this week's Market Minute. I'm Cody Moore with Wealth E&P. Today we're going to look at last week's performance and historical data from midterm election years. The three major indices last week all finished positively on the week. The Dow Jones led the way up 5.72%, finishing out what was a fairly volatile October. Big question on everybody's mind is, will this be another short-term rally, or could these positive returns continue to rally throughout the rest of the year, being that the midterm elections will finally provide some certainty in markets? So we'll take a look at the S&P 500 dating back to 1962 and what has typically happened. So on average, the decline during midterm election years is 19%. With all the craziness that's going on this year coming out of COVID, war in Ukraine, decades high inflation, we've actually tracked right along with that number, down slightly over 19% for that intra-year number. The average performance for the year following a midterm elections actually up 31.6%, and the number of times we've had a negative return in that following year is 0. So of course, what has happened historically doesn't tell us exactly what will happen in the future, but somewhat of a silver lining going into this next period. So what can you really do with that information? Well, there's really two categories to pay attention to here. If you're a longer term investor, this chart here shows what has happened on average when the S&P is down 20% from highs. So there is a very desirable risk to return ratio here. If you're a longer term investor, you've got a better chance at a very high gain versus a lower loss, as this chart can show. But more importantly, what this shows is if you're a shorter term investor or you're nearing a retirement date, something like that, it is a really good time to make sure you've got a risk mitigation strategy built into your investments, your portfolio, things like that. So if you've got any questions for our team here, would like a second opinion, anything like that, please feel free to reach out to us at wealthep.com. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you next week.